All right, welcome back. We are WEBD6201. That's client-side scripting in the winter 2022 semester at Durham, and it's week 7, part 2 of our broadcast recording and time together. All right, so that's what's happening right now. Where last we left off, last week we talked about Ajax, but we're working this week on developing our single-page application. That's what we've been working on. We talked about a little bit of some commercial front-end applications, Angular and React, really briefly. Some things to note again, reminders. ICE 7, that's this, is due tonight at midnight, right? Lab 2 is due Sunday at midnight. Lab 3 has been released. We talked briefly about it. I'm going to be updating the requirements for that. That's coming up, so by the time you get back, it'll be there. Test 3, when you come back, is ready to go. It'll be on Ajax, and it'll be like the whole week-long thing like we've had before. So that's what's happening. I'm going to skip right into coding. Let's get right into this. And I'm just going to pull into our stuff just the in-class exercise 7 that we're ready to go with. And of course, what we always want to do when we start coding is let's see what we've got. So we'll do a light server. We'll do a light server. And then that'll show us a blank page. You should have a blank page with your light server. It looks like this at this point. Okay, pretty straightforward. And if we do a Control-Shift-J, then we can see that there are some issues, right? And the main issue is our header.html is not found. We're going to fix this problem right now and fix everything else. What I want to do first, here's my first thing I want to do. I want to make it so that the home page, we can see the home page, we can see the content, and the content kind of pops up. That's what I want to do. If I can make the content pop up on the home page, I can repeat that process for every other page. So this is the first one we're going to do. I'm also going to talk some best practices because there are some issues with what we're going to face. One thing that I want to tell you again is that the lab report for this in-class exercise 7 is challenging for the live site portion. The other parts we're going to do together now. It's not going to be an issue, but the reason why it's challenging is because it doesn't quite work the way you think. Okay, that's just the way it is. So let's get into that. I'm going to go right into our code. Here it is, and let's go into our scripts, our app.js. And remember what we did at the bottom, where we left off. We had this stuff. We had home, about, projects, services, and so on, right? And we have our projects page and a services page. For some other sections, they have products page. Not your section. Your section is the only one that has projects page, right? Just to remind you. But some other sections have that. We also have a display 404 page. That's what we have there. That's our code. And then we came up with some stuff. I made some recommendations. We need to have a load header, right? We have to have something that loads header. We've been using our Ajax requests. We're not going to do that anymore. That was just to get us going and to talk about the low-level way that that's working. Load content, yes, nice. This is interesting. But load content, we're in the beginning I said, well, maybe we should pass in the router active link. But that doesn't make sense because we have the router active link already around. It's there because it's in the global namespace. So we can do something that looks like this. First, we want a load header. We don't care about this. Goodbye. Right? We want to load footer, right? At the end. We don't have a load footer function yet. We're going to put that in. And those 3 things is what I want to do today, all right, for starting off. So let's just take away some of these extra spaces, just because your code has extra spaces compared to the others. Awesome. Let's jump to load header by right-clicking and going to definition. Go to definition. All right, so in the definition of header, we see that it takes in data. We're not going to make it take in data anymore because we're going to use jQuery's version of our or Ajax loader to load the header. We have content, but content right now we have a page name and callback. We're not going to need these, right? No more page name and callback. I talked about maybe we'll do that, but we already have our active link available, and we're not going to do that here. We'll keep these comments. And the one thing we're missing is our function right now for our load footer, which is down here. We don't have a footer, but we will at the end. All right, so that's next. Let's keep going. Let's do the first one. Let's do load header and see what that looks like with jQuery for Ajax, right? Again, what we want to do for jQuery is like, hey jQuery, I want to use a get function to load .views/components/header.html, because that's where the view should be, right? And we want to kick off a function where we pass in the HTML data that we're going to load, right? So this is the thing that we want to do. We have to make sure that this stuff, all this stuff here that's in the load header already, is inside of here. We definitely need to do that. This won't work anymore. The active link won't work because we need to fix this. We need to fix this. Okay, we're using a to-do. I'm using an extension that highlights all of our to-dos, things that we need to do. And that kind of pulls up. That's something we need to fix. We need to fix this. Because this doesn't work anymore because we're not going to switch on title anymore. Title is gone, right? Because we have a single page. Cool. Well, let's take a look at a structure. Make sure that inside of our views folder, inside of a components folder, we have a header and a footer. The footer is empty. We're going to fix that. In our content, we have our home page right here, right? So if I did everything correctly, then if I go back to my page right now, right, and if I refresh, now look what it says here. It says view components header.html. That's what it's looking for, right? So if I kind of refresh, it says jQuery min.js is trying to find this thing, and it's kind of going from app.js to this. How does it that it's calling this, where it says view, but our thing is called views? It says views, not views, so it's a mistype. It's just a spelling error. So let's put views in there. And now we have other issues. It says data is not defined. Let's fix that, because this says data, and this should be HTML data. Save. And now we get our header back. Okay, let me show you what we did again. So this is the first version of our load header file. So again, we're using Ajax this time instead of our own custom file, our own custom function. And why are we doing that? Because this is showing you the guts of how Ajax works. That's what I wanted to do with you last week, right? How do I do Ajax? Well, I do it this way, right? But we don't have to do this. We can use the jQuery shortcuts, which is very short, right? And it does all of this, but we don't have to do anything but just like a few lines. Okay, this is great. The footer, well, that's pretty easy. Let's do the next, because that's even easier. And I'm going to do this in a different order than I did the other classes. So I'm going to grab all this stuff, right, again. I'm going to go down in here. And inside, instead of targeting the header, I'm targeting the footer. I'm going to go get the footer.html, right? I don't need this part or this part, so let's get rid of this part right here. But I do need my footer HTML data, which we don't have. So let's save this. I'm going to go out to, back to here, go to get bootstrap. And I want to look at an example of the footer that you guys put in for lab 1. Remember lab 1 asked you guys to programmatically inject a footer for lab 1. So that is under Nav Bar. If you scroll all the way down here, right, you want to look at placement on the right. And placement will take you down to fixed bottom, this fixed bottom footer. I want to grab the fixed bottom footer, copy it, go back out to here, and go into my footer page, which is inside of my components, and just slap that in. Let's make some changes to the footer, right, just so we can see the footer. What we're going to have is, instead of saying fixed bottom, let's get rid of the anchor tag, and we'll just add in an H. We'll make it an H3 just to make it big. And the H3 is going to have an and copy. which is going to be a copyright symbol, followed by copyright 2022. So that's our footer. Okay. Yep, it will. So once we have this, then if I go back to my page, we have a footer right here, right? So the footer worked, the header worked, but now we need to do the content, and this is some trickiness to it. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and I'll talk about what's tricky about it and why it works and why it doesn't. All right, footer's done. We don't have to mess with home anymore because home is just this part. So how do I do the content area? Well, it's kind of using Ajax the same way that I did before. So let's do that. So we'll say, hey jQuery, I want you to use Ajax to get the content for this page. And it's going to be /views/content/ the name of the page. Because the name of the page is going to be changed. It's going to be home, about, contact, blah, blah. I need to make this an interpolation. So the way it's going to work is, let's make this, instead of a regular string, we'll make it a template string, right? Make it a template string. And it's going to be whatever the page name is. Let's make an alias for the page name. So we'll say let page name equal to, remember what that is? It's router.activeLink. That's the page name, right? So whatever the page name is, we want to inject it right here. So we're going to say, hey, let's inject the page name. By the way, you could also put router.activeLink in here, but I'm just making a friendly name for it. This is an alias, right? I like to use aliases sometimes to make it clearer, clarify. .html. So here I'm loading it dynamically. I'm kind of putting together my path. And I'm doing it by saying the first part of my path is views, content, and then I want to add in, I want to append or interpolate page name, whatever that is, based on the router link, .html. And then let's do a function. Which we have HTML data again. And I want to do this. So inside of here, this is where we're going to do something similar. Instead of latching onto our footer or our header, we're going to latch into main. So this is where I actually inject the content, main. Same structure so far, but with main, I also want to call the callback function. Because the callback function is like my controller. It's like my logic behind the page to make it work, to make all the buttons click and all that stuff, right? And I got to choose the one that suits this thing. And I already have that function. It's called ActiveLink Callback. We made that last day, right? So the ActiveLink Callback function, which is I'm going to put under here, is way down here. So if I go to the ActiveLink Callback function, that's way down here on the page. Here it is. And right now, it's looking for an active link. We don't need that, of course, because the active link is in the global namespace. I put it there so you understand how it works, right? So this is router.activeLink, okay? And I want to take this router.activeLink also and copy it and put it down here. And this function, ActiveLink Callback, I'm going to use this function way up here, right, inside of our load content. So I'm going to do that. So here's something I could do. If I call tell me what this does, guys. If I call the ActiveLink Callback, what does this do by itself? Just this. Sorry? Yes.
So do we just say error callback as long as it's
No, because I'm passing in the router active link, which is whatever link I'm clicking on. So it's going to have something. So what is it going to return? What does it return? What does this function do for us?
It'll call the display whatever page matches the active link.
It will. Fine, it calls it. But does it call it, really? It returns a reference to it. That's what it does. It doesn't call it. It returns a reference to the function that matches the link that I'm clicking on. So in order for me to activate the reference, I can do something really ugly, and I can do something that looks like this. Okay? How does that look for you? Like it looks like two eyes that are looking at you, right? Guys, that's super ugly, and it works, by the way. If I save this, and I go back to our code, you can see clearly I'm getting my content, right?
I'm getting a 404.
Well, that's a different issue. That means that your page is not found. But we know the page is being found because we already got our at the top we got our main navigation. This doesn't look good, but it works. The reason why it works is the first part. Actually, you guys tell me, what do you think the first part does? It returns a reference. So this part returns the reference to the function, and this part calls the function. Right? So it's almost like saying, "Hey, function, call yourself." That's what those two things mean, right? Just like the IFI. Remember the IFI? We had that stuff in the IFI, and then we had a call. We had actually the call for the IFI. Self-calling is what this is, right? But this is ugly, and we don't want that. And 5 years later, if we come back to this code, we're going to go, "What does this do?" Right? It doesn't make sense. So what we really want is we want to say callback, just to make an alias again, is equal to this. I mean, it works equally well, by the way, this way. It's just ugly, right? And then what we're going to say is just call the callback function. Whatever the callback function is, call it. That makes more sense to us, right? Because that we know what callback is. But here we don't have to pass in the callback function because we have it right here. Here's the active link callback. And all we're doing here is just calling it. We're just calling where this part here is being stored in the callback. This is almost like an alias, like we said, right? A type def in C++. That's what it's like. It's like that one, right? And here I'm actually using the callback itself. All right? All right, so that takes care of that, and we've settled the first part of our single page application, which loads our first site, our home page. Now the other ones don't work because we don't have anything in here, right? It loads the first part, but doesn't do the rest. It doesn't actually have any functionality, right? So I can't actually, how it says sample text, it doesn't hide that because, and it doesn't work because it's not functional. None of it's functional. All right, so let's go back to our home page for a second. So that's interesting. So what I need to do now is take it further. Let's put this up on GitHub first. So I'm going to say, for GitHub, we're going to say git commit -m, and we're going to say converted index.html to view template, which is what this is, and then git push. First commit. Excellent. Nice. But what we really want to do is start converting all the pages. And so here's the process. Let's watch how this works. We're going to go to a page like about. We're going to cut out the h1 tag like this. Cut. We're going to highlight the whole page. We're going to delete it. And we're going to take Control V and paste. Save it. And then drag and drop the about page inside the content area. Let's try that again. Contact list. All we need is the stuff inside the main element. We're not going to copy the main element at all, just the stuff inside of it. So h1 tag all the way to the bottom, not including the main closing tag. Cut it out, highlight it, delete it, paste it, save it, and drag it into our content page. And let's just not do this anymore. Contact, same thing. We're going to go in here, go inside the main, highlight it, up until just before the closing tag, cut it, highlight it, delete it, paste it, save it, drag it into our content page. Next, edit. And don't worry if I'm going fast, because at the end of the day, this is what you need to do. Whether you do it faster or slower, it's up to you. Just make sure you don't include the extra tags. You can go ahead of me if you're faster than me. No problem. We're not going to do the index because the index is our template. Okay, make sure you don't do the index. Login. Projects. Register. And services. And if we did everything right, I'm just going to close all these off. Then we have inside of our content area about, contact list, contact, edit, home, login, projects, register, and services. And each one of these things only has the stuff inside of it. Okay? That's all it has. It doesn't have any main in here, just the stuff inside main. That's all that's in there. It's almost like fragments. They're page fragments. That's what they are. Okay? We're missing one. We need to make a new one called 404.html. Let's put that in there too. So make a new one in the content area. We'll call it 404.html. And that one will be something like an h1 tag where we have something like error 404 oops your page is not found. And we'll use not in strong, which means bold. Something like that. And with maybe a space at the end. So the 404 page will trigger if I put a page in there that's not part of our single page application. Okay, that's what it'll be. And you can make any friendly message you want here. You can also add things to the user, like a little picture that's you know, an unhappy face or whatever, if you want to go there, right? That basically says, oh, I'm sorry, you landed on a page you didn't want to go to. It's a custom 404 page. Other people have things like our directory list, please contact the web administrator, and blah, 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 whatever else you're going to put in there, okay? Okay, let's see how this works. And so this is a 404 page not found anymore because we're looking for our index.html. Oh, what? Well, why? What's loading our index.html? We shouldn't, right? We should be going here, and we should, when it comes to here, it says our site. But when I go to any one of these are actual links. We can't have actual links. We got to modify our header now. Let's do that. So inside of our header, we have a bunch of these links that don't compute anymore. None of these compute. We got to change all this. So this should be slash index slash about slash projects slash services slash contact and slash login. Save. And now, if I go back, then it's just about clicking these and, oop, do I have about there still? Did I save? About, services, save, fresh, about, that's it. About our projects, our services, and then the contact page, and the login page, but there's still some issues. At the bottom of the login page, there's this one. It'll try and take us to register. We got to fix the one in the login page. So that's the other one we have to fix. So login page has this, can't be this anymore. /register. And the same thing with the register page. It's got to be /login. And if I did those, and I go back out, and I go back and refresh, and I click on the register page, it takes me to the register page. Click on the login page, it takes me to the login page, and no more errors. And if we put in something else that we don't know, like press enter, we get a 404 page. Right? So now we have part of it working. Let's put this up on GitHub. So what did I do? I took all the files, stripped out everything other than the content, and put those files inside of the content area, the content folder. I fixed the index. Okay. Git add dot. Git commit -m, and we'll say converted all pages to views. Okay, that's all the change we made. However, we still have issues. We still have issues because there's the internal links that are also, that's in the app.js page. We have to fix that. So let's fix all those links. We have to reroute everything. Okay, let's reroute everything. So rerouting happens, and then I'll ask you guys if you're with me in a second. Let's do the rerouting stuff first. Reroute. In my app.js, I want you to find all instances of, Control F, find all instances of href. All right? And if you really want to do a quick job, which we're going to do today to save time, we're going to find href space is equal to space quotation marks, and we're going to replace it with href space equal sign space quotation mark / right? That's going to fix it. But if we did that, if we did this, we would still have the HTML piece there as well, which is not great. Right? So let's not do this. I just want to find them all. Let's find them all. There's 11 of them. Right? So let's find the first one. That's this one. So we want to change this to /about. Let's do the next one. So this is /edit. And do not remove the hashtag add, please. Keep the hashtag add after the edit like this. Has to be like this. Edit, hashtag add. Let's go to the next one. Same thing for the add page, or the edit page. So /edit and no HTML. Next, keep going. /contacts. And again, /contacts. Right, /contact list. And let's do these ones. /contact list. And /contact list. We're just converting all the internal links. These are the external ones were on the HTML pages. The internal ones are internal to our app.js. And we're just converting them all so that they're going to work for us. Now, index should change to, what should index change to? /home. Save. That is the app.js. There's one place I also have an external or another link to, which is in our auth guard. We haven't used auth guard yet, but in our auth guard, which is here, we location address to a login.html. Let's just change that here too, just so we don't forget. Okay, all of our links now are changed, but we still have a problem. To make everything activate in our index.html, we have some issues. We have some files up here. We have namespace and router. We need to add in contact and user at the top. Let's do that. So script source slash scripts slash contact.js and also user. So script source slash scripts slash user.js. We need that because without user and contact, then we wouldn't be able to log in and we won't be able to use our contact list. Does that make sense? Now there's an advantage and disadvantage here. The advantage is that every page now will have access to the contact and the user. Before, only some pages had the contact and some pages had the user. All right, let's move on. So now let's test. Let's do some thorough testing, some troubleshooting as well. Okay, so back to here, I'm going to go back to home, and it says index, and it says page not found. How come that's the page not found? How come? Index doesn't compute, that's why. Why is index even there? So if this says index, right, it should be home or slash. That was my bad. Let's fix that. So going back to this, and let's go back to our header. This should not say index, this should say home. And the same thing goes with our icon. Our icon should not say index, we forgot that. Let's just use slash home. Or just slash, whatever you prefer. Fixing bugs. Okay, let's go back to our code and let's see how that works. And if I go back to home, we're good to go. About, projects, services. And let's go back to home and see if we can press that button now. And it should take us to about. Good. And how about our login? Does it work? Let's log in. If I log in, it's going to take me to my contact list page, but it's empty. Can I add a contact? No. Something is wrong. And let's also go in and do a Control-Shift-J and see what's going on. So this is the issue. It says callback does not exist contact list. All right? For app.js 423. Callback is not a function. Let's go and fix that problem. So right here, this is what's happening here. It's going to display something, and maybe we made an error here. Well, look, contact list. Look at that. That's a spelling mistake in our code. We're going to fix that now. That's why I put this in there. When I saw this, I'm like, oh, it hit the default somehow. That's my bad. That's what that means. If I hit the default, that's the programmer error. That's me, right? Let's fix that problem. So that's an error. And again, I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to scripts. I'm going to go app.js. We're going to slip all the way down here. And this should say contact list, like so. That was just a mistake. And let's try it again. And now we should be able to see our stuff. We do. And we should be able to add, edit, and delete. All right, let's try that out. So let's delete Peter Parker. I know. Oh, and what happened? We went to the contact list. That's not good because it doesn't work. So it's another button somewhere we missed, right? Which is in the contact list page, right? So where would that be? Contact list.html. Missed a button somewhere. So that was we were in the contact list when we went to delete, right? Which means inside of my app.js, if I'm not incorrect, inside my app.js in my contact list, display contact list somewhere, I missed it. There's display contact list. And then we press the delete button and we went to this. Somehow I missed that. Okay. All right. It's deleted though, we know that. If I go back to here, then we can see it's gone. Okay, so deletion works, but we just had the wrong link. Okay, let's try it again. We'll add a contact. Okay, we'll add him back in. Peter Parker. And the contact number is, we'll make it wrong. And it tests, it's good, the testing works. We'll do it this way, and we'll say Spider-Man. And if this works, that means if one check works, usually it means all of them work. This is good. I want to now edit this one. And I want to make sure that the phone number matches the style of the other ones. And we're good to go. We've done read, create, right? Create, read, update, and delete. We've done all the CRUD functions. So we know this is good, but auth guard is not working because it's not blocking anything. We're getting here without logging in, right? We can log out. And if I go back to show you this, if I can go back to my contact list page, oh, hey, there's another button we missed on our contact. These are all things we have to fix. Here's our contact page, and at the bottom of the contact, there's that link, that button. It should say /contact list. Nice. And if I click it now, oops. If I click it now, it'll take me there even though I'm not logged in. That's bad. So I want to fix this problem. But first, we've done all our rerouting, and we've rerouted everything. All our links work now. Okay, we've tested everything. Okay, so let's go back here and put this up on GitHub. So say git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say rerouted all links. So you see, this is a bit of a process. We're converting. We don't have any more regular pages anymore. We just have one page, right? So everything's got to point to the same page. But this is going to be our downfall when we put things up on the live site, as you'll see. Okay? So this is good. It's excellent. We fixed all the easy stuff. How do I make the auth guard work? Well, let's take a look at the auth guard function right now. So under scripts and under our authguard.js, we have this. If I put this at the top of my, in my index.html, right? And let's take a look there. Here's my index.html, and here's my auth guard, right? So my auth guard and my index.html. Let's do that. So here's my index.html here. Right? So auth guard and index.html. Now, when we look at this, right, I have some choices to put my auth guard. Should I put my auth guard at the top? Should I put it in the middle, the bottom? Should I put it down here? Where should it go? And if you think about what this stuff is, this stuff, right? This is the area here that is my the links that do not depend, so scripts that do not depend on content. Doesn't depend on content, right? Down in here, we have scripts that do depend on content. Scripts that do depend on content, right? We know that. So where would auth guard go? Down here or up here? We put it up here last time. Do you think it still goes there? What do you think, guys? Any thoughts? Anyone want to take a risk? Okay, I'm going to start picking on you guys. Jacob, tell me, where should it go? Top or bottom?
I would say because I'm not caught up.
Come on!
My home and project page is not working. So
Okay.
I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say pages in the next page, or would it still only affect the...
Let's try it. Let's do it. So here's where it should go. It can't go here above the namespace because we need router, right? It can't go here because above the user, because we need to know if the user's logged in. So we need to put it right at the bottom of these scripts here. This is where it should go. So script source, right? And we're going to ./scripts/authguard. Now, you said it will go to the login page. But if it goes to the login page, what is it going to do then?
Oh, because then it won't even...
What will it do when it goes to the login page?
We'll try to go to the login page,
And then what would that do?
then go to the login page.
Which is an endless loop.
Yes.
Let's try it out, right? So that's what it's going to do. It's going to do an endless loop, right? And nope, it's above, but it's definitely going to be under here, Tyler. Yeah. So let's see how that works, right? It just does this. Forever. Guys, you need to shut this down. Shut this down, please. If you don't shut it down, your Windows operating system is going to shut it down for you because it's going to be repeated calls. Please shut that down right now. We'll go back and open up another localhost 3000. Okay, don't worry about that. Shut it down. Okay, that's the first thing. So we want this. We want the auth guard there, but we can't have it working all the time. Okay, now guys, we're almost done the first part of most of the part of our single page application, right? The basics, right? Let's talk about what you would do in a perfect world. And I want to talk about the perfect world because we're not in that perfect world right now. We're in a place where I'm teaching you about single page applications, and when we come back, we have 2 weeks before we start talking about the back end, right? And for me to restructure the way we need to restructure is going to take perhaps another hour or two, right? And let me talk about why. We need to map links that are no-go, secure. How do I mark a link as a secure? Do I have a mechanism for that right now? I want to mark a link in my website as secure. What do I do? How do I do that? Can you do that? There's a bunch of smart people in this room, and some people, really smart people online, right? Let's see if one of you guys can tell me. One person. Oh no, I didn't do it. I shut it down for you, Tyler. That's why I told you, don't do it. I wanted to show you what it would do. So think about this now, right? It's not going to shut down your system, by the way. It would shut down your browser. That's all it would do. But let's think about this now, right? We want to make it so that we want to mark some kind of route as no-go, as secure. We don't have a mechanism for it because when we go look at the router, let's take a look at the router. Here's our router. And if you look here at the bottom of the router, we have a bit of garbage code. And I say garbage code because really this doesn't belong here, right? It should be in its own file, right? But we have a table, right? A routing table here, and it has links. All these links are strings. How can I mark a string as a secure string? I can't, which means I need another class. My other class is going to be the route class, or root, potato, whatever you like to call it, route. If I make it the root class, right, or route class, router instead of router, please don't say router, right? It's router, right? Which means let's call it routes from now. I'll try my best. If I want to make the route class, the route would have, in the constructor function, if I was going to make a route, it would need the path to the route. Is it secure or not? Default not, right? And maybe some other information, like what type of route is it? Is it a post type route? Is it a get type route that I want to make in the router? Do I have other properties that I want in the route? But it's more than one thing. It's more than just a path, which means that my routing table cannot be a table of type strings. It's going to be a table of type routes, a new type. Okay, if it's a table of type routes, when we instantiate each of the routes, I have to use the constructor function. So every single line is going to be new route, and in constructor format, / comma, if it's secure or not. Or I can just default it as not secure. And if you make it not secure, false, true, for secure, it's a Boolean, secure, not secure, right? I'd have to use the constructor function every single time. Boop, 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 every single one, right? And once that's done, now I have a table of routes, not a table of strings, which means all of this stuff has to be changed, right? What I'd have to change the link is the active link, which we would remove from the route, right? And we'd have to make this active link a route as well, right? We'd have to add a route, not a string, right? We have to add a routing table, which is an array of routes, not an array of strings. We'd have to find a route where we take the route that we decouple the path from the route, right, in here. So another piece of code here, and lots of changes, and changes all over the place, okay? So we would have a route class, and you know what, if we're gonna go there, I might as well have a routing table class, because you know what, does the routing table really belong in my router? No. It should have its own, the router should have a reference to a routing table object, which we create somewhere else, right? And if we're gonna go there, you see where I'm going? You know, it's like my old Uncle Luigi, right? My Uncle Luigi, I'm not Italian, I'm Greek, but my wife's Italian. And my Uncle Luigi would sit down and say to us, and maybe I've told you guys this before, if you had me in another course. He would go down, he had a very high-pitched voice. I'm not joking around. He wasn't Luigi from the video game. He really is this guy named Luigi, I swear to God. He would say, Tom, what's going on? That's how he would talk all the time, right? I meet the guy. And I would say, you know what? He's the construction guy. I would say, Uncle Luigi, you know what? I want to break down this wall because I want to open the room up. It's going to look nicer in my house. He goes, okay. And so I'd open up the wall with him, and then he'd look over and goes, oh, Tom, you got problems. I'm like, what's the problem? He goes, this is no good. You got to change this. You got to change that. You got to change this. He would find stuff in the wall, and we were suffering from what's known as the might as wells. I might as well change that, right? I have a copper pipe. I got to change that. Might as well. The wall is open. Might as well, right? Huh? Yeah. I got some, knob and tube in the wall for the electricity. Might as well change that. You better change that, right? Might as well. So I'm changing the plumbing and I'm changing the electrical. You know what? This is a little bit old, this duct that's happening over here in the wall, and you got to reroute it anyway. Might as well change the duct. Now I'm changing HVAC. So for one wall, he made me change HVAC, electricity, and plumbing. We suffered from might as well. We had scope creep happen to us, right? And this idea is not what we want right now. So there's a simpler solution, uglier, absolutely, not as extensible, for sure, right? And not something I would recommend if we were, doing this in a coding house long term. If we're making our own front-end framework, I would not do this. But to carry forward so we can move into the next week's happy, without killing ourselves and rewriting a bunch of code and driving you all crazy, because I would, right? We're going to make a simple way of doing it. So the way we would do this is go into the authguard function, and let's make a routes that are protected as a list. So let's call this thing like protected routes. Seriously, like this. Now again, this is not really functional long term, but let's think about, I've just talked about what we could do to make it better, right? So we'll say protected routes is equal to, and we'll just put it in contact list. Okay, just like that. Why is it doesn't have the slash? Because it's sanitized at this point. It's sanitized. And I'll show you the sanitization. We're going to do something like this. We're going to say if protected routes dot index of router dot active link, and if that is greater than, is not 0, right? Then, and only then, do I want to check to see if the user's logged in. Remember what index of does. We used it already once when we made our router find function, right? Index of, it returns the first occurrence of the value in the array or a -1 if it's not found. So that means if the active route, the active link is inside of the protected routes array, it's going to return a 0. I don't want it to return a 0 if it's greater than -1, right? So it's not -1. -1 means to the left of 0, That means if it's 0 or greater, if I found it in the 0th position, the first position, the second position, let's say I typed it wrong or something, right? If it's found at all, then it's going to go down here. If it's not found, it's going to ignore all this. That's what it's going to do. All right, let's try this now and see if it works. Save. And let's go back and just open up another window here and just go to localhost, which is going to not cycle forever anymore, right? We know already it's working because it's not cycling forever. And let's go and log in. And we shouldn't be able to be redirected here. We're good. And if I log out and I go to my contact list, it should redirect me to login. Log out, go to my contact list, it redirects me to login. Beautiful work. Nice, nice. Yes?
Another thing that's not working.
Okay. Let's go back to this and put it up on GitHub. Git add dot. So Jacob, you don't have to wait for me. Look at GitHub. It's there. All my code compared to your code.
I've been trying to, I've been trying to.
No problem. I know it's hard. Git commit -m, and I'm gonna again. I want to say that fixed auth guard, because that was what I did. There's one last thing we need to do before we try and put this up on live, right? And the last thing we need to do is fix that active link on the nav bar. Remember that to do? We didn't fix that to do. Let's fix it. So inside of our app.js, in our app.js near the top, right, where we had that to do, right? Here it is. It says we need to fix this. And the problem with this is that we're not switching on title anymore. We're not doing that. So the way to switch is to do something different. So let's get rid of this. What I want to do is define the title. We can define the title, right? We can say something like document.title is equal to, and we can think about what we're getting. We're getting a notification. What we're getting is, if you think about it, I'm just going to go to, we are getting right now the document title, but what we want to do is we want to take the original active link and split it, make it capitalized, because we know it's going home. We want to capitalize the active link, which is lowercase HOM. We want to capitalize it to home, and that'll make the title that we need for the home page. About, contact us, all that stuff is going to be capitalized. We don't have a capitalized function. We could make one. And capitalized does not exist in JavaScript native. Okay, we can't do that. So we need to make one on our own, which is not that difficult to do. Okay? Let's think about what this looks like. So document.title is equal to router.activeLink.substring. And on the substring, we want to start at 0 and we want to end at 1, which is exclusive. So the last character is not included in the string. So if I go substring 0 to 1, it means the first character. We can also do it with character at. Both work the same way. Okay? So substring 0 to 1. And what I want to do is I want to use the toUpperCase method. Okay, that's the first part. Plus, I want to add in the router.activeLink, and I want to use a substring that goes from 1 to whatever. So how does this work? This is capitalization, right? So really what I want to do is I would love to have a capitalized function instead of this ugliness right here, right? What if I want to capitalize something else in the future? Now remember, this capitalizes the first part of a string. The second part of a string, it ignores. We don't care about the other part, right? So this would be a very special type of capitalization, which only capitalizes the first part of a string. If I want to capitalize the whole string, we need to do more work. Okay? This is enough. So, okay, but how does this work? So if I go back to the title now, if I go back to my links, you can see now that my title is login, capital L. Look how that worked, right? So home, about us works, but our projects shouldn't work, should it? How does that work? Our services, that kind of works too. Contact us works, right? And login works. All of that still works the same way. What? How does that work? I don't get it. Why? Because, my friends, we already had it in there. Look what we did. We said, if I look at our code, that it contains this title. But of course it's going to contain that title and other stuff. As long as it contains that title, we're good, right? And that's what it does. It highlights those things, and we're good to go. That's fixing the active link, okay? So save. Git add dot. Git commit -m. Oh. And for the most part, your in-class exercise is done. Now the tough part. You want to put this up live, and you guys have a lab on Sunday, right? And so there's a couple of strategies you can use, right? We can make a brand new site for the in-class exercise that says something like WEBD6201 live sites for ICES or something, or ICES live site. And you can just reuse that over and over again, right? And just replace. But you're going to find that if I did that, that I would have a big problem with GitHub Pages. And the way GitHub Pages works is this. If you put something after the slash and a name for GitHub Pages, I'm telling you the error, what it's going to do is it's going to provide .html at the end, whether you put it in or not. So if I go /about, it's going to go /about HTML. And you're like, wait, what? Who did that? I didn't do it. The server did it. So the server takes control of your request and adds whatever's missing. That's what it does. And old school servers that support PHP and IIS, which is Internet Information Server, which is the thing that's Microsoft makes, right? It has a default set of endings, HTML, HTM, PHP, and a bunch of other ones, okay? If you don't put in HTML, it adds it for you. Index, right? We don't want that. We don't want that at all, right? And here's an example of if I did that, and if I do slash, here's the other thing that it does for us. If I go /about, it's going to go all the way back to my site, the original site, which is the name of my site .github.io / the name of my repo, whatever it is, / whatever it is .about. And it's going to go .html, and you're going to be like, doesn't compute. Everything is going to be a 404 online. How do we fix it? Hints for you, because one part, all I care about is that you put it up so that the front page works for your full marks. For bonus, I'm going to offer a bounty of 0.25% to make the entire thing work, and I'll give you some hints on how you can do that. Here's how it goes. Let me explain it first, and let's try it first. All right, so I want to make a brand new repository. And again, let's see if Cooper's here yet. He is. Hey, Cooper.
Oh, I'm here. I'm ready.
All right. So let's go to the repository. Let's make a brand new repo. So I did this earlier today. So I want to go to github.com during programmer, and let's do what you would do normally. You would kind of go up here and go, I want to make a brand new site for all my ICEs. Sounds logical, right? We would say something like, this is your account name, and we would say WEBD6201, live site repo. We'll call it light site repo. Okay, nice and easy. And we'll make it public, of course, because that makes sense. And we'll press create repository. Yay, awesome. And we're going to follow the instructions here and make that live site repo. And I'm going to do that for you. In here. So we'll do that, WEBD6201, and then we'll go something like live site repo. I'm not even naming it properly because I know it's not going to work. And I'll go into section 1. I'll go grab all your ICE for ICE 7, everything including the modules, right? And then we'll go out a couple places, go to my live site repo, and I just want to show you what it does. All right, so you're clear. So you know what it does, you've seen it. And this is the same for if you and I are making, remember we talked about a single page application for any default server. So why is it working locally for us then with Light Server? Because Light Server, my friends, uses Node.js. It does not use some kind of old school server like Internet Information Services or something else like Apache. If it's using Apache, most Apache sites default to .html, right? .htm. It adds that on for you, right? But not so with Node.js, which we're going to learn later on. So here's our live site repo. That's awesome. Let's add this into let's add a repository for this, right? So again, I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code. We'll just replace what we have with this, right? And we'll do the regular things we normally do when we start up a repo, right? We'll say something like get init, get add dot. It's going to take some time. So we're going to make it fail first. Always when we test, we make it fail, and then we try and fix it, right? But let's prove that it fails first. So I'm telling you that it's not going to work, right? So git commit -m, and we'll say initial commit. And then now we need the instructions for on site, this one. I'm going to grab these last 3 lines of code like I normally do when I start a new repo. Go back to here and right click and paste. Enter. And it's going to push this up. Nice. I'm going to go back to GitHub and refresh. You're going to see I have all my in-class exercise 7 stuff right here in this live site repo. Now let's make it live. Settings. Pages. And I'm going to go here and choose main and under root, that's good, and press save. And we need to wait because if I go back here, you can see that there's this little orange dot. That orange dot means it's in progress. It's in progress. It's doing something. It's not complete. Unless you see a check mark here, you know it's not live yet. Refresh. And it's not even started yet. It's taking its sweet time. Whenever it feels like it. There it is. It's starting now. Pending. Right? In progress. And check mark. Done. But this is still in progress. And active. There we go. Let's do that. Go to view deployment and didn't work. How come? Right? And it's not finding my index page, even though it's a slash. And if especially when I go here, if I go here, it just craps out completely. Why? And where did it go? It went to /about. Slash means go to the root. So that's another thing it does. Go to the root. That's what it's telling you to do. And at the root, then, you know, put in this link. Right? Yeah, yeah. It's go to the root. That's what it means. Go to the root. I don't have anything there. And go to the root and find that page. So that is what you're going to get. And you cannot fix this. There's nothing you can do because when you come to this point, not the way we have it, all right? The way we have it is, sure, it shows up. But when it comes to routing of any kind, right? Now let's try routing manually. We can do that too, right? If I route manually, how does that work? Well, I can put about in here and press go. And then again, we have an issue, right? Again, we have a problem because there is no about.html. None of that. Okay, what about, here's something. What about if we protected the route, because we know that anything that's after the slash, we put a name, it's going to add HTML to, but what about if we put a hashtag? If I put a hashtag and press enter, it doesn't do anything. Because it's assuming that it's going to be some kind of hash, right? What about if we put a hashtag, and after the hashtag, we put in another slash? Does it do anything? No. And what about if after the hashtag and the other slash, right, we put in something like about? That works. Then it didn't reroute, right? It didn't crap out. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't stop from working. That's your hint. The hint is use hashtag in front of the route if you want to get your bonus, right? And the reason why is because if you put the hashtag in front of the route, you'd have to change every route that we've done already. All that work that we did, go back to every single route and add a hashtag in front of it. And the other thing you have to do, just to get you guys to know the scope of work, right? If you're interested in that 0.25 bonus, if you want it, right, is the other thing we have to consider is inside of the router, when we are at the bottom, when we're doing this routing substring. It can't be route substring 1, it's got to be route substring 2, because we want to miss the hashtag and that's how we sanitize. This line right here sanitizes the route and removes the forward slash, right? And here's the other thing. It's never going to be just hashtag. It's going to be hashtag or forward slash, hashtag forward slash, right? Hashtag forward slash is always going to mean homepage, right? So we have to do a bunch of things. All the links that we have in our page right now, right? Every single link that we have in our page that has a forward slash, we have to replace with hashtag forward slash. Let's see if that works. And it's not an easy process, but I'm going to go, this is my live site page. I'm not going to change my other page, just my live site page. And here, this is the routing table. Let's add those hashtags. So these are all the routes, right? And here, right? And we have to change this to 2. And we have to go into the app and find all the hrefs. By the way, this is not, remember this is in the live site link. Is it still going to work? By the way, we should also test it locally, because if it works remotely, it should work locally too. And if it doesn't work locally, something's wrong. So again, I'm going to show you it so you understand it. Save. And all the header stuff. Like you can see there's a lot to do here, right? And I might time out before I do everything. Yeah, components first. And I'm doing it in this one because we have the original. I'm not modifying the original. So you guys have a chance to see it all. No, Tyler, no. Once you create your WebD repo for LifeSite is inside of your, it's a new repo that's part of your account, right? But we can make any repo into LifeSite as long as it's public. But you're making all yours private, right? Unless you have a GitHub Pro. And what I'm doing is I'm just changing everything so we can make this work. Let's keep going. So we also have some scripts that are the authguard scripts. As well as in the pages. I don't think about contact list. Does it have it? I don't think there's anything there. Contact does have it. That is here.
We should be editing this on our website.
Yeah, if you want. I'm just trying to help to get you guys all the bonus. But again, I want to show it to you so you understand what it does and how it may not still work. We'll talk about why in a second. So save all. Good. And let's push. But let's test locally first. So does it work? All right, so we're here and we're trying to add hashtag and, well, didn't work, right? About these things work, but you can see that there's still file not found. Remember, if it doesn't work here, it's not going to work online. Okay? Well, we know this is okay, and we've parsed it, so what is the problem? Let's do a Control-Shift-J and see if we got any errors. And we don't have any errors. So what is going on? It's being ignored, is what it is. That hashtag / hashtag / and projects and services and all that stuff is being ignored. If I go to the router.active link, you're going to see it's a 404. It's picking up 404 because we're looking through the routing table and we're going, do I recognize this link? Does it match? Remember? That's the way it works. And that is, my friends, is right inside of our router script. Here's router.js. And let's see if this is working. So here's what we're saying. We're saying router.findRoute. And let's see how router.find works. Find says, I want the index of the route that you're saying, giving me in the routing table. Okay, so here's the routing table. And I'm passing in my route. And I want to get the route substring 2, right? So let's find out what it is. There's some console logs, right? So I want to do a console log. And remember what we said is that the active link is this. Well, let's see what this route .substring2 does. What is this? What is the route? So route. And it says, if I refresh, that it is nothing. Right? So let's just remove this so we don't get confused. And if I refresh, I get absolutely nothing. Why? Well, route.find is never going to find us here, so let's go back up one. So we'll go to here, and we'll go to here, we'll go to here, and let's see what we get now. Slash. Wait, what? How about here? And here? and here, and here, and here. All of them are slash. Why? Because we really don't care about what's after the hashtag. It's not part of the location URL anymore, like we had before, right? What I mean is, location path name is, what it does is it returns the object's URL path. But the path name itself also includes a hash, right? So what we want is if I go dot hash, what about then? Can I output the hash of my of this thing? It says undefined. Because remember, location, we did this before with the when we started looking at the edit page, right? So I'm just trying to give you some hints. You see the scope of how difficult this can be to make work, right? And is it worth it, is the question. I'm just being honest, right? So take a look. We say that in my edit page, my display edit page, which is way down here. Okay, this is the root of the problem. Here's my display edit page. It says, okay, da-da-da, whatever, and on click, we have a location href, and then on the default side, we say that what we want to do is we want to somehow separate my hashtag, right? Because we go to my display page, and somehow we're going to know that it's an add page or an edit page. That's what we want to do, right? Remember that? Maybe you don't remember. It's been a lot that we've done, right? So here's our contact list page. Contact list page, when I click the add button, here's the edit button, right? When the button is clicked and it has nothing on it, if I click the edit button, right? And by the way, this one way to fix this problem with the add button. Remember, I said that some of you had the problem. This part right here is actually a bug, and this should be placed outside of the if statement right down here. So it says location href, and then it's hashtag slash edit slash hashtag add. Uh-oh. Well, if I send it to the edit page, that's where it would go, the edit page. Then here's the edit page. We go in, we do some form validation, and then we go location.hash.substring. Location.hash.substring. So that's what I want, location.hash. So if I go back out to router, let's just do location.hash instead of location.pathname. So location.hash. And now I got this. Now I'm starting to get somewhere, right? Hash login, right? Hash login. Okay. What about the rest? Can I get anything else from it? So refresh. Here's about. Here's projects. But it's not changing. Look how it's not updating. Even though I've changed this, each one of these is being clicked, right? This down here is not changing, right? It only works once. It only works once because the page is being only loaded once, right? Ever. The page is only ever going to be loaded once, and because the page is ever loaded once, the hash is never going to change. The first time we load the page, whatever that is, that's the hash that's going to always be. This is the problem. This is the nature of the issue. The nature of the issue is we can't do it quite like this, right? Okay, I'll show you, Tyler. We would like to do this, right? This would be nice to do, right? But the problem is, as soon as we have that hash, it's not like a location. The location is always going to be slash, right? And the location is never going to change, no matter what I pick. So this system we have, if we use a hashtag, although it won't take us somewhere else, it's not going to be the solution for us. It won't, not in this particular case. It cannot be, right? Because the hashtag is not going to do it. So tell me then, what other mechanism can we use? This is the nature of the problem. What other mechanism can we use to work locally? First you test it locally, and then you go remotely. One thing we also have is the history object. right? So if I look at the location history or the history object itself, let's just look at the history object. And the history object is very interesting, right? It has a state, right, as well. And the history object has a push state and a replace state, okay? So that's what it does as well. So what if I use the history? Let's take a look at the history object for a second. So JavaScript history. It's really document dot, is it window to history? Window history? Yeah. So window history, you can use back, right? Equivalent to clicking back. Go, equivalent to history back -1. Go -1. And what we can do with it is we can use the history object for other things as well, right? So it's the history object itself, if you look at it, it gives us a length. We can also change the state. We can go forward, push state, replace state. So replace state updates the most recent entry on the history stack to have the specified date, data, title, and if provided, a URL. Okay. So that's what it does. So it's the window history that we want. Let's go back a couple steps. Window history, W3 schools, and it should give you some examples. So window history back. What about window history push state and all that stuff? How do we do that? So if I go back to this, and let's actually go to our page, and we'll do that. We can actually do it inline, in page, right? So what if I said something like, I love it. I said something like, history dot push state, and I want my data, my title, and my URL. My data is going to be nothing. My title is going to be nothing. And my URL is going to be whatever I want it to be. Look what I did up here. I changed my URL in my path by using the history object, and I changed it to home. Let's try that again. So I'll kind of push up, and let's change it to Tom. Watch the URL. Okay. So now that gives us hints as to what to do. So what I'm doing is I'm actually physically manipulating the string that's in my URL up there to do what I want to do. Okay, now if I change it to that, can I read it? Can I read the object there? What's the actual link to what I want to have? So what is the URL now? So if I do something like a location.pathname, then what is the URL? It's this, right? That's what I want. Because now it gives me exactly what I want as before, right? And so I'm modifying it depending on what I'm clicking on, right? So how do I fix the links? Make them all hashes. And make me control each of the links as a button on the thing. I'm gonna respond to each one of those links myself. So in my navigation and in every link that I have, I'm going to have some kind of function. I'm telling you how to do it. Some kind of function that picks up the click for the link, modifies the history, adds the thing on the top, and uses that location, that href, for my routing table. That's the nature of the problem. So again, I ask you, is it worth it for 0.25%? And I don't think it is. But if you're a trooper, like maybe you're someone like a Cooper, right? Or someone else who's a go-getter, one of you guys who wants to go and grab it. It's there. It's not a lot. But the reason why I'm offering it is because it's a challenge. If you want to be challenged, it can be done. You can use the location object to do that, and in combination with the history, you can modify the history, which is like manipulating the URL. And once I manipulate the URL, then we could change everything that happens. And once I manipulate the URL, I have complete control. I can catch whatever that URL is and do stuff with it, right? So where would I do it? Just to give you one more. So push state is the way I want to go. I'm not changing the document title, not here. I wouldn't do that. But push state, what it does is it changes the history to whatever you want it to be. It changes the URL. And then the path name as a result changes. Okay? So, going back to the router, right, like this, we know that history.pushState is what we want to do. Location.pathname is what we want. And we want to start off with something. So when we load the router for the first time, we want to do a history.pushState. So we're going to say history.pushState. We're going to initialize the router is equal to, right? Again, it's going to be no, and then the next part is going to be the URL, which is going to be slash. And that is going to guarantee that we're going to start off with the slash, regardless of what we do, right? Location.pathname is going to provide the path name that we're going to put in, right? After the slash. So this push state is the first thing we're going to get. Okay? So going back to that, and if I go back to localhost, because that's online, then you can see that that is clearly what it is, slash, right? None of these will work, right? Because even though I've modified all this, right? If I just go back to the slash, like so, then we have 404 because in our routing table, we don't have a slash again. So let's remove some of these for a second. I'm just showing you the nature of the problem. I'm showing you how it's been solved in the past, right? Not because I want to go back and forth, but because notice now that we're okay at this point, right? But if I click this, it's no good, right? And what I want to do is when I get the link, whatever that is that I get, I want to intercept that link, and I want to change it to, I want to rewrite that link, add the / whatever it's going to be, right? And it's going to be added into, it's still going to go / by itself, right? So / by itself is going to take me to that thing that says 404 not found, right? But then once I'm in the router, I'm going to catch it, right? That's what I want to do, and modify those all the links that are inside of my page, and it's going to change them to what it's supposed to be. So here, let's go back to this. So I don't need these hashtags anymore. But what I need to do is all the links that I have on my page is, instead of me having a href, I'm going to have a function to do it for me. I'm never going to have an href anymore, right? Because an href is going to try and change my location object, which I don't want, right? What I want instead is when I click on that thing, I change the history object, right? That's what I want. And when the history object changes, I want to make sure that I respond to it. That's how it goes. Let's stop there, guys. I agree, Cooper. Okay, Satya, stick around before we go for the day. Questions around the stuff we've done today. So we have a pristine version that we haven't put up on our live site, right, which is in my in-class exercise 7. I haven't modified it whatsoever, okay? We have the other version that we've put up on my live site, okay? And there's one more option you have, which is don't use my trick live site that I made, but use your account name.github.io, because that would give you more success. Because why? You're already at the root. So you're going to get that first page 100%, right? If you have a 404 on your live site, it's got to be at least one page that you should have. When you go to your front page, if you have that first page, you're good to go, Cooper. If you can actually see your stuff online, and we've explored this together, and you try and put it up live, I'm good. I'm happy.
So is it fine if you don't have a
As long as it says 404 and it shows me your custom 404 page, I'm okay.
Wait,
All right, your custom 404 page live, I'm saying.
Okay,
Yeah. Locally, it should work perfectly. When you demo it locally, then show it live and say, here's my 404 from what you explained, blah, 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 la, la, la. Done. Takes 2 seconds. But again, there are fixes. It's not impossible for us to fix it. It just means that we have to make our own custom link. Instead of using an href, we're never going to use hrefs anymore. Hrefs are going to be all hashtags, right? In the thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to catch them. Each of them is going to be a button. And we're going to have to wait for the header to load before we add in a bunch of event listeners. Right? Every time we click a button, any button that has a link, we're going to make our own custom link. It's going to be a link catch basically, which is going to basically allow us to do that our own event for the link. Does that make sense? Anything we click on it'll be an event handler that's been created. And what will happen is when the page loads, here's a trick. We can read the entire page and look at any hrefs that are on the page and any buttons. And if we want to, we can add event listeners for all of them. Right? So we can do it. It just takes a little bit of work. And it's more work, more time than we have. But we can do it. As a bonus, what I'll do for you guys is I'll work on this for you guys to make it a clean copy so it'll work no matter what. Right? There is a solution. It's just beyond the time we have. We need more than another hour. Okay? And I'm not going to stick around for more than another hour. And it's almost the long weekend. And you know what? I'm sure Elden Ring is calling. Right? All right. So let me stop the YouTube video and we'll go from there. Okay, hold on, guys. Then I'll answer your questions before we go. All right.